we have some unusual boxes that showed up. They're very nondescript. There's a couple of stickers. You see the word Xbox there. Inside of here is going to be my best look, your best look yet at the next generation consoles from Microsoft. We have some code names on here. Like, look at this one, Project Stockton, Project Toledo. It's important to note these are kind of, they're non-functional. That's the reason the boxes are so light. I want to see the form factor, especially, actually, I might be more interested in the little guy. We got all the details recently on Series S. We just found out that it's going to be more affordable than a lot of people thought. But anyways, let's kick it off with the big boy first. I'm guessing that's in this box. And then we'll compare the two and give you a sense for scale. Maybe I'll compare them to some other things around here so you guys can get a better idea of what to expect when these actually become available. Starting it off with Project Toledo. It's not like a leak or something like that. These are actually from Microsoft. So this is the official final design of each of these units. And actually, even this one is smaller than I thought. Looking at it in pictures, this will be your Series X. Now, I've been talking about this shape on Lou Later. I called it a rectangular prism. Others said, Lou, don't you remember primary school? It's called a cuboid. You could call it either. Those are acceptable terms.
I've never heard cuboid in my life.
It's a real thing. Would you check out this cuboid? Whoa, cool. That is much smaller than I expected. I was a bit concerned when I saw the initial images. I was like, how do you put that thing underneath a TV in an actual entertainment kind of, or what about even on a desk? It was a little bit strange, but it's actually not that huge. And when you consider the horsepower they've been able to pack in here, it's borderline impressive. And I mean, of course, we're gonna have 12 teraflops of power, and I'll take as many as I can get. So you've also got the super fast Nvme SSD in there, 1 terabyte of storage compared to 512 on the other unit. So yeah, it's gonna have a tremendous amount of power, the most power ever in an Xbox, and an unusual form factor. It has this large base down here on the bottom, so it can stick and stand like that. But I also noticed straight away, you do have feet on it. So yes, you can lay it down. Now, I don't know what type of furniture you're dealing with, whether or not you can find a good spot for that, but I think some users will actually go this way with it, and it appears that Microsoft is telling you you can because you have feet on that side of the unit. Now, the way I'm handling it, yes, it's lightweight. The components are not on the inside. That's important to know. This model obviously also has a disk drive slot, a singular eject button, the Xbox button over here, which looks to be backlit or will eventually be backlit. There looks to be some kind of a sync button for your controllers. Also a singular USB Type A port on the front. A little bit of Xbox branding up here. And then as we flip it around to the back, we have 2 more USB Type A with the SS indicator above there. We have storage expansion as well. If you need more storage than the 1 terabyte that's baked in, you have a network port for your Ethernet. There's an HDMI out, and then your power connection in that section right there. So that kind of rounds out the visual appearance of the Series X. Now let's go ahead and compare the arguably as exciting, maybe more exciting to some people, Series S, which we just got all the details for this one, just got uncovered. Project Stockton. And originally the renders kind of had this thing as an actual cube, but it turns out it's also some type of prism, and it is tiny. Now, I don't know what this is meant to compete with. Of course, it doesn't have the horsepower of the Series X, so maybe it goes up against something like the Nintendo Switch, or maybe it just pulls users away from Sony because the entry price point on this is set to be $299, which is, incredibly affordable for a next generation console of any kind. Keep in mind, this model is going to be targeted at 1440p gaming up to 120 frames per second, as opposed to the 4K target of the Series X. But I think for a lot of users that may be okay given the price discrepancy, $299 and $499. The GPU will be different, however, the processor will be the same, and the storage will be a little bit different. There's a few small differences, but ultimately, I can see this being very attractive for a number of buyers. I mean, look at the scale of it. You could put that anywhere. You barely even notice it. Now, people have made a bit of a meme of the design, saying that it looks like some sort of a laundry machine or something like that. I mean, I don't mind it. Black and white, Stormtrooper look, couple of different simple shapes. You do have a legitimate USB port on the front, similar to the other one, and also a sync button, likely for the controller. The Xbox button, which again appears to be backlit. This vent on the top of the unit. I flip it around to the back side. We have our Ethernet port. Once again, 2 separate USB Type A ports, HDMI, storage expansion, and your power connector. Now this one has feet on the bottom side, so it can be upright like this next to the Series X, and you can just tell how tiny it is when you compare the two. I mean, it's pretty wild, in fact. It's almost, I mean, you could get 4 of these guys. At least 3. You could definitely get 3 of these guys into there. And then you also have feet down on the bottom here, so you can lay it down, which again, I think this is how most people end up using it. And when it's like this, I think, I'm gonna pull out a controller just so you can see the scale there. I mean, it's like 2 controllers wide and it's 1 controller deep. This thing is tiny. You can place it anywhere. You could even travel with it. You could go to your pal's house and easily fit that into a bag or a backpack. Well, I guess you could do it with either. Yeah, so it probably makes sense as well to do a quick scale comparison against a PlayStation. This is a PlayStation 4 that's been kicking around the studio for a while. There's been many versions of this, but this is one of the popular ones in terms of scale. So typical PlayStation 4, and you can see how that measures up next to the Series X. From a volume perspective, obviously it's much deeper. The Series X is taller, depending on which way that you have it placed, but kind of, I guess, commensurate in scale in terms of volume, just laid out a little bit differently. One thing is, on this unit, you will see some people actually place a monitor right on top of it if they're cramped for space, obviously. And I'm talking about like a computer monitor, a smaller monitor. You may or may not do that over here. I don't know if the footprint is gonna allow for it. It's unlikely. You'll probably place this beside. And then when you compare the PlayStation 4 to the Series S, well, that's quite a big difference. They were about the same height, very similar in height, as you can see there. Very little difference in height, and then about half the depth of a PlayStation 4. So that's pretty impressive that they were able to cram everything into a little box. A one-handed holdable box. Sony has their work cut out for them because, as I've talked about on the Lou Later show many times, they're scheduled, or at least the rumor is at the moment, that they're gonna just put out a PlayStation 5 and a PlayStation 5 digital. So essentially 2 models to compete with this one at price points presumably very close to the price of this one, but they're probably not going to have a next generation play in the same price territory as this little guy. And so that's going to be interesting to see how the market responds. Everybody, I mean, there's a lot of cost sensitivity right now, and I think this is going to be a bit of a win for Xbox to have a $299 option this holiday season. And it actually goes one step further because, of course, Microsoft is launching their Game Pass stuff, and the word right now is that there's going to be some sort of financing way in which you can buy either of these along with Game Pass, and the number that's being floated around right now is $25 a month for this one with Game Pass, and that's, of course, access to hundreds of titles, or $35 per month with access to Game Pass if you want the more advanced console. So some pretty interesting stuff happening in gaming. The other thing to mention about Game Pass, if you have that subscription, it's not going to be exclusive to your Xbox. It's working on other platforms. You can play on Android with one of these controllers or some other controller. So it's a pretty cool deal and an interesting way to think about gaming. I'm not sure how they're going to do it all. Is it all going to have to come via their website or through retail partners? But anyway, there you have it. It's a quick and very early look at the upcoming next generation consoles from Microsoft, the Xbox Series S and the Xbox Series X.